Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to talk about multiplication and simple ways that you can make multiplication a little bit easier, and then eventually getting into what's known as the distributive property. So a very basic example here. Let's say I gave you 3 times 19, and you look at that and say, well, I don't know how to multiply 3 times 19 other than doing it vertically, which is completely fine, okay? But let's say I wanted to get you to a point where you could do that mentally. What we could do is actually split this, and some people think of it this way. We can make it 3 times a quantity of 10 plus 9. So I know that quantity 10 plus 9 equates to 19, and then I would follow through by multiplying 3 times 10, which is 30, 3 times 9, which is 27. They're both positive in this case, so we know with our rules of adding and subtracting integers, we're going to combine, same signs I add and keep, final solution is 57. And it makes it a lot simpler to multiply in that manner. It's a lot easier to do it mentally. What we just did there was the distributive property. And what the distributive property states is that any term, or in this case called a factor, any factor that is outside of our quantity here will then be multiplied by both terms inside the quantity. Okay? So the way we actually, and a couple things here. Number one, the way we would actually say this up here would be 6 times the quantity. 6 times the quantity, 1 minus 5m. Okay? When we see the word quantity, that implies parentheses or grouping symbols. Okay? Just a way to start thinking about the verbiage as we move in. Okay? So just like I did in that earlier example, I'm going to take my factor here, 6, and I'm going to multiply not only the 1, but also this 5m by 6. Okay? Now, if you were paying attention in earlier classes, we know to look at this 5m and look at the sign that precedes it as well. Okay? So that's not only a 5m, technically that's a negative 5m, because that sign in front of it is telling me what actually it is, positive or negative. Okay? So I'm going to multiply in here. So what I'm thinking in my head is I have 6 times 1, and then I have 6 times negative 5m. Okay? I'm not going to put a sign in between them right now. I'll put that in the end. So then I just execute. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times negative 5m is negative 30m. And here's the beauty. If it's already negative, we know that a negative sign is the same as saying subtraction. I have 6 minus 30m. I cannot go any further from here because unfortunately, although this has an m, it has a variable, this 6 over here does not. So they're what we call unlike terms. So that would be as far as I could go. The only other way you could express it could be to reverse these. So if I reversed and kept my sign with my 30m and made it negative 30m, and because I have a positive 6 here and it's coming second in my line, I do have to show it's positive by putting an addition sign in there. Both are equivalent. So now I'll go a little bit faster. Now I'm going to multiply. My factor here is this negative 2. I'm going to multiply it by 1 and negative 5v. So what I'm thinking here, and as you get the hang of it, you guys can just write this down. Okay? I have negative 2 times 1, and then I have negative 2 times negative 5v. The sign goes with it. Okay? Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, and then here we have a negative times negative. Remember our integer rules here. That becomes a positive 10v. I could leave it like this because I have one that has a variable v and one that does not. They are unlike terms. Or I could reverse it, meaning I could put my 10v first. This time I don't need an addition sign because it's coming first in my line. It's implied it's positive. And then minus 2. Both are equivalent solutions. Okay, so the last one here, I always bring this up because kids get very confused with this little negative right here. What does that mean? Well, we have to actually read, and that is our visual indicator that there is actually a number here. It's not just a negative. Okay? What number is actually there is negative 1. So I'm going to write in the negative 1. And now I distribute as I have in prior examples. -1 times -2. -1 times this negative n. Oops, that's a 1. And then I just execute. -1 times -2. Well, the nice thing here, that makes it a +2. -1 times -n, all that does is change it to a positive n. So I have the solution 2 plus n. Again, variable, no variable, I cannot combine them. I cannot say that this is 2n. This is just 2 plus n. Or you could reverse it and make it n plus 2.